the biggest station in the world, playing all of today's hits. You're listening to Instinct Radio.
All right, good evening, everyone. Happy Monday. It's your boy Kevin Thornton, and you have tuned into the Wellness Architect Show. Today is Monday. What is today? June June 7th. June June 7th. May 7th, 2018. It's your boy. So we're gonna have a great show tonight. I'm looking very fortunate. I had this guy on a couple months ago, and we only had like a half an hour of the show, but this time we got a full 2 hours to talk to him. He has a book out called Leverage to Win: Key Relationships All Men Need to Succeed. Now, just because the book is catered to men does not mean the women don't need to listen to it. Because if
Absolutely.
you have a husband, you have a son, you have a father, you have a cousin, you have someone that that needs to hear it, and you need to hear it because will help you understand where we come from as a mindset as well. So, don't think because it's catered to the men that it's not for you. This show is not for you. You might get the greater good for this conversation because you get a better understanding of who we are and what goes on with us. So, I want you to tune in, call in with any comments or questions for this brother. It's 478-569-6474. Once again, 478-569-6474. Share this Facebook page. You on Facebook Live. Share it to all your friends as we get ready to get started. This brother's name is Dalton Beckles. He's out of D.C. I met him through Tony Gaskins. He is with Tony Gaskins created a men's group, and the men's group is for us to work together to become our greatest self for 2018. And this is what I had told him before was like an answer to me because it was something that I was thinking about doing myself. But it didn't make a sense to reinvent the wheel if somebody else is doing the same thing. I could just go ahead and join in and play my part to help all of us be great. And then with that, collaborate, do great things because I believe he put all of us together to do his work, to be leaders in the community. So, with that being said, I have Dalton on Skype. How you doing, sir?
I'm all right. I'm all right. How you doing?
I am excellent. I'm excited to have you back on because but when I had you on the first time, the book hadn't arrived, but now the book is here, and I read the book, and I was very impressed with the book. I
Thank you
actually
so
learned some.
much.
I actually learned some things, but I also was with me being a coach myself. I understood a lot of stuff that you were talking about as well. So we're gonna get into it. So, um, when I saw the book, well, I ain't gonna say that, but I'm just gonna go into it like that. When I saw the book,
Uh-huh.
I was intrigued because the on the cover of the book, you have a white man on the book. Why is that?
Yeah. Oh man. We well, let's jump right in.
Just jump right in.
Uh, well, I mean, there's so many different factors that played a part in that.
Mhm.
And it's so crazy because I got a lot of feedback about having that, me being a black man
Right.
and me having a white man on the cover. I had so many ideas, so many goals. This is my first time writing a book,
Uh huh.
and so what I was looking for, honestly, I was not able to find.
Okay.
Initially, I started off with trying to look for some designs
Mhm.
that showed leverage to win, like a scale, a balance beam, something like that.
Right.
And I just couldn't find the right thing. And I was spending a lot of money that I didn't have,
Right.
being self-published.
Uh huh.
I had to, it costs money to find what you look for.
Exactly.
And, I was going through so many different pictures. And this was probably the most awesome picture that I saw that I resonated with.
Hmm.
I did ask for some other pictures, some other designs, and it was really challenging to find any good quality looking African American men from the different businesses that I reached out to help me design the book cover. Which is kind of disappointing, by itself.
Right.
I also I wanted to have a group of men on the cover, to be honest with you,
Right.
of different races, different nationalities, and yeah, I was getting back blanks. I was getting back that they couldn't find it. They were trying to do cartoons, and I just really didn't want to do that. I even tried once to put my face on the cover,
Right.
and I didn't like the way it was looking. Plus, I was still in my journey of losing weight, and
Right.
so I didn't want the book to come out and I look completely different from the front and the back of the book. So
Gotcha.
it was just a lot of different factors that played into it. I wanted to appeal. I didn't want it just to appeal to Black men. I wanted to appeal to all men,
Right.
and to women as well who are living with a man or raising a young man. I wanted to appeal to everyone, and if I would have just put a Black man on the cover, as I thought about the process, I would have lost a large audience of people
I agree.
that need leverage to win. And so, I prayed about it, talked to my wife about it, and I'm very content and happy with the
I agree. I agree. And it didn't really get to me or anything like that because I understood. I think a lot of times it's a harsh reality that in marketing, if you're trying to not just you're not just trying to hit one collective race, sometimes you gotta do something that maybe you don't really want to do because you want to attract the masses. And so, like you said, if it's just a picture of us Black men on there, or just you as a Black man on there, it may not hit everybody who you're trying to hit. And so, so I understood that, but I want you to let you get a chance to clarify why you did it, because I know for a fact that my buddy is in entertainment, and a lot of times when he try to pitch stuff, and it's him and another Black guy, it's hard for them to want to see them. But if they have a white guy as their pitch person, they get more listens that way. So
Absolutely.
So that's just the harsh reality. So what made you write this book?
Oh man, so much has happened in my life since the end of 2016. That this book I probably was writing in my head for years.
Okay.
The reality is that I always wanted to write books, but I kind of strayed so far away from my calling that it went from something that I wanted to do to something that I was thinking about doing to something that I didn't think I was ever going to end up doing. And so, for this being my first book, I wanted to write Leverage to Win because it was a real-time experience. It wasn't just something that I wanted for other people. It was something that I was going through myself. Right. That I had to pull the natural supports, the supports that I had around me to get leverage to win, to win and win again. It's not just about winning that first time. It's about learning to, rise, fall, and rise again. Right. And so since I was going through the process, I wanted to document it as simply as possible. The book could have been a lot longer, could have been much thicker, could have had a lot more stories in it. But it was meant for this season, for this moment.
Yeah, because we're actually in the very beginning. I know you got 4 sections. You have the fathers, you have the brotherhood, which I think is a good one. Love. No, faith was third. I think love was last, correct?
Yeah, the greatest of all these, yes.
Yeah, so it was good, but it was crazy when I was looking at the first beginning part about fathers and how you were saying that a lot of times when you coach clients, male clients, a lot of the experience is a lot of them don't have fathers. Yeah. So, so their experience is that either the father wasn't present or he was there temporarily, and so with their expectation of what they see for a man is different compared to maybe you and I, because I have both my parents with me, and so and like you said, you got some people saying that I guess their fathers may have been there, but he might not have been present, and so. I can really understand that because a lot of people I talk to, male-wise, too, that's the first thing they say as well. Yeah. And so, and even when I was growing up, a lot of the guys that I was cool with they was jealous, but they wasn't really mad at me or my brother, but they was just the fact that my father was there and he was present, and even who as grown men, he's still there and present. And a lot of guys wish they had that. So
and for me, the real surprising thing is that what I wanted to paint was for people to realize, for men to realize, and for women who are dealing with men who haven't had their father figure, is that whether you had your father in your life, you still have the leverage that you need to win.
Right.
There are still father figures. There are still mentors, coaches,
Right.
therapists. There are still people out there that are kind of put in place, designed to help you to have that leverage to win, if you choose
Right.
to accept it and to recognize it.
Right.
Sometimes our disadvantages are our actual advantage.
Right.
And so we've got to learn to tap into those things so we can get that leverage to win.
Right, because I don't know about you, but a lot of times most clients are females, because the men, it was the ego, the pride, whatever you want to call it, they just don't want to come and get coached or see a counselor or therapist or whatever, knowing they need it.
Mm-hmm.
And so,
Yeah.
what do you say about that?
My experience, my experience is the same. The one thing I will say, and especially for any men who are listening, I often find, whether it's in counseling or coaching, that men, when they do come, they are the toughest ones to get to leave.
Yeah.
They kind of engage at such a deep level.
Yeah.
It's just about getting them there.
Yeah.
It's just about getting there. Once you get there, the rest, they do the rest for themselves. I'm
Right.
just there to take notes and encourage.
And I will agree, because the ones I've had were really some of my best clients, because once they got there and they saw that it was a safe space for them to talk and not feel like they're gonna be judged, then like you said, it was hard for me to shut them up, because they was like they found some way to release,
Yes. Yeah.
and they've been
Yeah.
holding this stuff in for so long. So now they got someone who's willing to truly listen to them, and not judge them. So they just want to release. So even when we give them assignments to do, they Johnny on it, because
They're on it.
yeah. So that's the one thing. So I really like that. So why you feel that was the first that section should have been the first one about fathers?
Yeah, so I was very strategic with that, because they are the first sense of discipline and direction that we get, whether they are present or not. Their roles in a young man's life is paramount. Like I said, whether it's the father or the father figure, the grandfather, whoever it is, that role is so important to the upbringing, the trajectory of a person's success and their abilities to win. Because we're the ones that end up becoming the husbands, we're the ones that end up becoming the fathers, we're the ones that end up becoming the brothers to society. And so if we don't start with fathers, which is how we all start, if we don't start with fathers, we're at a disadvantage. And I wanted to make sure that we started with the root of what we typically hear. My father wasn't there, or my father was an absentee, or my father was an alcoholic. That's where we typically start majority of our stories. And ironic enough, it's not even just the men.
Right.
It is women too.
Right.
Everyone is searching for this relationship with their father. That is how powerful fathers are, and the impact that they have in our society, in our careers, in our businesses, in our homes, in our churches, in our communities. They are such a integral part of that it couldn't be ignored, because everything starts in the home. We know that.
Right.
Training, success, everything starts in the home.
Absolutely. So, what would you say to that woman who may be listening, or might watch it later on, that say that when they hear the men say that their father was not present, that they look at it as an excuse, because they feel like, he wasn't present in my life either. So what? So what do you say to that?
Yeah. So initially, I also thought, especially if you start, once you crack the book, that's one of the first things I say, is that I thought it was an excuse as well. I thought it was just a way out, when the reality is that connection and that impact is so real, and it shifts the course of everything that happens. So one of the most important key points that I put in the first section of the book is that when fathers are not engaged, and when sons and daughters do not have that relationship with their father, or their father or mother. What it does is that it creates a place of unknown. It's a level of unknown that is that's subject to the influence of the environment around them. So they're right. Their fathers didn't raise them. The streets raised them. The music raised them. Their grandparents raised them. And so a part of who they are is unidentified. And so they really don't know all of themselves. You don't know all of yourself.
Right.
And so you have to align yourself with other people. And the hope is that there's an understanding of that for people. See, I was talking to this great speaker the other day, David Shantz, just an awesome guy. And he was telling me how important that connection is. So, and I need to get more information, but basically what he told me is that, the mother, is there to teach, to train, to kind of correct their daughters, and the father is there to love their daughters. Whereas in reverse, the father is there to train, to discipline, to correct their sons, and the mother is there to love this.
Absolutely.
And so when that piece is missing, then everything is missing.
I completely agree, because I've always said that. I said that, fathers love their daughters, but they raise their sons. Mothers love their sons, but they raise their daughters. So the women don't understand that even though the father wasn't there, what they're missing from the father is the love they're looking for from that male. But their mother was present to teach them how to be a woman. Where for us, we getting the love from our mother, but we don't have that father there to teach us how to be a man. And so it's hard. Sometimes I have to check myself and how I look at some things, because my father was present. So he taught my brother and I to be strong black men. And he taught us to be very confident in who we are and whose we are. And you got to understand that everybody doesn't have that foundation. So the confidence that I have, confidence my brother have, a lot of men don't have, because the father was not there. And I think if people be more sympathetic and empathetic and understanding, that's what they're missing. And that's why a lot of men have self-esteem issues, because they don't know who they really are.
Right. And it's never too late. It's never too late to get that leverage to win. It's never too late to have a mentor. It's never too late to have a coach. It's never too late to have a father figure. Not only that, you can draw on the stories that you ignored as a kid. Now, as a kid and you're coming up, you don't remember everything. There's stories in that book I told you about my uncle and his impact. But at the time, I didn't recognize the golden nuggets he gave me. But when I did recognize it, I used it. I used it to my advantage, and I used it to be able to advance and grow as a man, to be a better husband, to be a better father, to be a better uncle, to be a better cousin to my family, all because of these lessons that I learned from my uncle as a kid. So you may not pay attention to it at that time, but now that you have this book, you need to reflect on, okay, well, who were these people? Who were these men? Who were these brothers? Who were these family members who solely cared about my success? Those men, those people that came and spoke to you and said, hey, now you got to get those grades. You need to start hanging out with these people. You need to cut those other people, because they cared about your success. Those are the type of people that you want to have around you at all times. And that makes such a big difference. It's never too late to have a father figure. It's never too late.
So do you feel that the lack of the fathers being present is where we have the disconnect for now? The fathers want to be present in their kids' lives. A lot of fathers not present.
Yeah. I think it's a little bit more than that.
Okay.
And I think that's where we may put our reason for it, but it's not the whole truth, which is why we have the other sections. We still have faith. We still have our brothers. We make choices, right? And choice, not chance, determines our destiny. So
absolutely,
we have choices. I talk a little bit in the book about Kevin Durant, because everyone was so upset and talked so badly about Kevin Durant when he decided to go to Golden State.
Right.
But the reality is, you need to surround yourself with other successful people in order to be successful.
Right.
And so, if your goal is to be someone who doesn't take care of their kids, then you hang around people who don't take care of their kids. Or you can make the choice to hang around people who do take care of their kids, who do spend time and are loyal and faithful to their wives, who take the time to grow and develop and build up their communities. That's the kind of people you have to be around. And I was lucky, I would say lucky and blessed to have those people throughout my career, throughout my life. As a young age, I had my best friend, Gabe. When I got to high school, I had my boys, Carlos, Jomo. In college, I had my whole Omega family, my brothers, who are still my brothers to this day and helped me build up my business now as a result of making sure to be around people who were looking to be positive lights, who were looking to do something with their lives. You know, I didn't have to make that choice. And there were times when I didn't always make that right choice. You know, I don't want anybody to think I had this perfect life and I was this perfect kid. You know, I really wasn't, you know, the best kid. I wasn't the worst either. But I made some choices and I made some decisions that hurt my mom and hurt my dad. And, you know, I made choices that hurt my wife and frustrated her. So absolutely, there's always room to grow. There's always room to be able to develop. And so I would never say that alone is a reason not to be there for the kids. There are other choices and other factors that we have accepted, that we have chosen, that creates that cycle.
Okay. Can you expound on that a little bit? Like, what other choices, or what do we have? Have they accepted that plays a part?
So, I mean, if you look at the African American community, you know, there are certain behaviors that are kind of just expected in our neighborhoods and our schools, and so we, you know, I actually posted something today. Where I just said that every kid needs a creative outlet. Every kid needs a creative outlet. There is not one kid, regardless of your race, that doesn't need a creative outlet. And I said to myself, I wonder if these schools that have our kids that are cutting up decided to use these kids to their creative in their creative ways. You have a kid that's a class clown. If you use that in a creative way, just like we do now in a lot of our businesses, and we try to put people in their special places where they work best. If we did that and we were creative like that in schools, how many of these kids would still have made the choice? Oh, the teacher already told me I'm not going to be nothing. You know, I can't tell you how many songs I've heard or how many shout outs you hear, and they say, you know, shout out to Miss this person or miss that person that told me I wasn't going to be nothing, that I was going to be just like my dad. You know, Les Brown talks about that, how, you know, he was considered the dumb twin and how everybody just spoke that way about him and how he believed it. Like, these are some of the things that happen. Our schools, our teachers, our close friends in the community who are just like, look, man, this is where I'm from and this is where I'm going to be. I'm dying here. I'm here till they tag my TOE, and it's just like, oh man. You know, we are literally accepting these things as if they have to be. No, we have a choice. And so that's what ends up happening, is that we accept those things. We choose not to sit with the smart kid who understands the work. We choose to sit with the other kids who don't know the work and are just acting up, and you over there entertaining them. They got nowhere to take you. They have nowhere to take you. But that's what we lend ourselves to. Okay. And that's why these go ahead, sorry.
Okay, because I had to say something because you said something, and I instantly got thought about a friend of mine. He's doing a documentary about the disconnect between African Americans and Africans and ones from the Caribbean, and how they see us and how we see them and other kind of stuff. And it's a guy that lives here in Atlanta that he just interviewed not too long ago, and he moved here from, I want to say Ghana or something like that. So he moved down here like in 2007. And that's one of the things that he kind of like he was distraught by, because he said everywhere else that he lived, you know, the cool kids were the smart kids. He said, but here, the cool kids were the ones who were not smart, or like I said, was not smart, but they didn't enjoy.
They didn't display it.
They didn't display it. So he said that it became that struggle to, do you want to fit in or do you want to just stick to being who you are? But he
Right.
said as a kid it was hard because it was easier at other places he was at because everybody was smart like him and
Right.
everybody wanted to be great. Where here nobody wants to embrace being intelligent. Intelligence is not cool until you become grown.
Yeah.
And so he said he didn't feel truly accepted and understanding who he was and where he was until he got to college and he went to
Mm-hmm.
Georgia Tech, where pretty much everybody at Georgia Tech are intelligent. So then he felt like he found his place and he just could not understand why as African Americans do not
Yeah.
embrace being intelligent.
Well, honestly, it's never been something that's been widely accepted. I mean, if you think back slavery to now, it wasn't a good thing to be able to read. It wasn't a good thing to show intelligence. And so I think that's a big struggle that we have now. I remember in high school, my friend Jomo that I was telling you about was probably one of the smartest kids I knew. And it was always initially like annoying to me because, he would just spout off information. He would always have an answer for everything, but now as I'm older, I would encourage that. I would encourage us to be able to speak up and to express our information. That is the key to success. But as a kid, it was kind of like, oh my gosh, here goes Jomo again,
Right.
Dropping all of this knowledge. And yeah, and I mean, he's a very successful guy now. We still keep up. He's in finance and he's doing great. But I just recognized that, like, it was almost like something you would want to hide. How many
Right.
times have we heard from our daughters or from our sons, who were doing great in school, and then they get to high school, and then they have to they start to dumb it down because they want to fit in.
Right.
And that's why I used the analogy of Kevin Durant, because I knew that a lot of kids who read the book would be able to recognize that
Right.
and see, no, it's okay. No, it's okay to go join up with other people who want to be successful, who are all skilled and talented and are successful. You want to be around those type of people. You don't need or should want to be by yourself. That's not leverage to win. Leverage to win is being around people who are going to lift you up and take you higher. And that's exactly what they did for him. And so my hope was that, kids would read this and say to themselves, yeah, it's okay to be around other people. It's okay if people laugh. People laughed at Kevin Durant, but
Right.
he's a world champion.
Right.
And he's an MVP. So
Right.
he has the medals to prove his worth and his value.
And the crazy part is, we feel like we want to throw our opinion of how we thought how he should do things.
Yes. Uh-huh.
And so it's very cocky of us to think that we should be able to tell somebody how they should do things, or we feel that we should not respect how he did it because it's not the way we think he should have done it.
Yeah.
And so I had to respect him for the fact that he did not listen to the naysayers and he went ahead and did what he had to do to become
Absolutely.
great. So
And and the reality is that we don't know him. I literally live, which I didn't know at the time when I wrote the book, but I live in his old neighborhood. And last summer, he actually came back for Kevin Durant Day, and he did a parade through the neighborhood, and he went to some of the schools, and he delivered so much donations, and he did so much in the community where I live in now. It was just so nice because it's another idea of being able to see what can happen when you dream, when you believe, and when you act on it.
Right.
And so for him to come back to the community, which, like I told you at the time, I didn't know that that's where he was from, but for him to come back and to just spend time in the same neighborhood, it's not a pretty neighborhood,
Right.
And for him to come back and to show love, despite all of the grumblings of people complaining, it just shows you so much what happens. Like when you're around the good people, then you do good and you share that with other people and you become a servant and you serve others. And it's just, to me, that's leverage to win in every aspect of it. Like I said, the community, your success, and being there for the other young people to give them an opportunity to know that it's possible.
Because I'll say this for myself. I learned this maybe 1920. because somebody told me how they saw me, and it was like a cousin, and he said, "You the you the smart one," and I was like, "Okay." And he said, "So you gonna realize that you going to only gonna want to not only, but you gonna want to surround yourself with people who are smart like you because you feed off that intelligence." And
Yeah.
as I realized that, I understood that for me to have conversation, I need an intelligent conversation.
Yeah.
And so then, as I grew and became coachable, and I got coached, before I became a coach, I realized that, you have to surround yourself with like-minded individuals. And so when you on that journey of becoming your best self, a lot of times as you elevate, either easily or not easily, some people are going to fall off. And so, but it's okay because then he brings in other people
Yeah.
that's like-minded, like yourself,
Absolutely.
that's going to challenge me to be better. And
Absolutely.
and so that's what I think a lot of times men and women, I think, are fearful of being their best self in fear of losing their so-called friends. So what you think about that?
Yeah, I think that's so true. I do some presentations for the Future Business Leaders of America out in Baltimore, and so I'm always with the future leaders. These are high school students, and I probably see them at least 2 or 3 times a year where I go out and I speak. And everyone is even as leaders, they are always afraid of losing those friends. And all I can simply say is this. As a part of my speeches, I always talk about friends, and I talk about what a true friend is. And a true friend is someone who lifts you up and never takes you down.
Right.
Right? Now, that doesn't mean you don't have friends for socializing. You don't have friends for your video games. You don't have friends that you just want to relax with. Absolutely. But they should always be encouraging you to go forward, never backwards. And any friend who's encouraging you to go backwards, to me, in my opinion,
Right.
is not a friend.
Right.
Because they shouldn't want to see your downfall.
Right.
I recognize that misery loves company, but they should never want to see your downfall.
Right.
And you can always tell those genuine friends, because when you're with them, they're always saying, like, look, you don't need to be coming to do this. You need to stay here.
Right.
You need to stay in those books. Don't even come over. Don't even hang out over here. If I see you over here, I'm running you off, because they want to see you.
Right.
They want to see you grow. They want to see you succeed. And so I am 100% in agreement that
Right.
that's a tough place to be.
Yeah.
But I promise you, it feels good. So, like I told you, even in high school, it felt good having other friends that wanted to work. That my parents instilled work in me at a very young age.
Me too.
So I probably started working at the age of 10. I worked with my dad. We were cleaning this church in New York, and I started working probably at the age of 10. And so, even in high school, I worked right after school almost every day. And, my friends Carlos, my friends Jomo, and my brother Kevin, we all worked at this place called Chicken Out. And when we were at work, the best part to me wasn't just that we got to work together and have a good time, but there was almost like a little bit of a silent competition to get our stations clean, to get as many tips as we could get. Like, the idea of hard work and the idea of being appropriate, we never stole from the company. We just worked hard. If shifts came up, we took them. That competition was so helpful in increasing that work ethic. That all of us are in some way successful as a result of it, because it could have been a completely different path for all of us.
Right.
Had we been different or thought differently or had different friends at the time.
Okay. I like that. So let's transition from fathers to brotherhood.
Oh man.
Why is that so important?
I think that I don't even want to misquote the Bible at this point, but brothers are so important because a lot of our influence comes from them.
Right.
A lot of the decisions that we make, they come from them. So we get the lessons from our fathers, our father figures, and we make a lot of those decisions based on the people we have around us, our brothers.
Absolutely.
You know, and to me, that's why that's so important, because we don't always recognize it. Like, you know, I talk a lot about my high school friends, you know, but I had some cousins that were just like really, really phenomenal in my life too. And that direction and that support, that helps a lot too. That helps a lot too. So for me, especially with me as a kid growing up, initially not having any brothers, you know, just a house full of women and my father, he worked a lot, you know, but having so many women, like I told you, everyone needs an outlet. And, you know, my cousins were there right on time. My boys, my brothers, they were there right on time. They liked the kind of things that I liked. I liked what they liked, you know, basketball, riding bikes. I mean, I grew up in New York, so, you know, I guess New York upbringing is a little different than some other places being in the city. But, you know, that lifestyle was really, because it's so easy to get caught up in the streets. I mean, I grew up in Queens, and so we were walking down the street and there are crack bottles on the floor. The lady at the end of our corner was absolutely, as we would say back in the day, was just crazy. So we wouldn't bother her. You know, she would walk up and down the street. You know, so we grew up in some really tough times. I grew up in the 80s, and it wasn't safe to be out there. There were times where you couldn't walk on other people's blocks, you know, if you didn't live on that block. And so having good, positive people around me really protected me from a lot of issues. And when I started to get kind of called into the streets, my father was like, "Nope, absolutely not. We're moving out of here. I'm not losing my son to the streets." Yeah. It's been important to have some good brothers, man.
It is, because I know I have a brother, and then I have a best friend that I've been friends since second grade, and we went through second grade, high school together, went to college together, and then I just remember, you know, and I had told him this in a conversation, like after we got seriously grown, and we was chopping it up, and he's doing great things and banking, all this kind of stuff. So I went home and we met up for a drink, and I told him, I said, you know, you said some things to me that I would never let nobody else get away with.
Yeah.
I said, no one ever will get away with some of the stuff you said to me. But, you know, I knew why you said it, and in the context of why you said it. So I knew you said it because you wanted me to be my best. Because like sometimes he was like, look, you party a little bit too much. You know, slow it down so you can focus on what you're trying to do.
Right.
He said the club gonna be there, but I need you to do X, Y, and Z. Any other person, I probably would got him, you know. Or like I told my brother, I said, you know, you said some stuff to me that, you know, anybody else it will be. So I said, I understand that that's God knowing me,
absolutely,
and knowing who I respect enough for them to know and come and say the things that He want me to hear. And so He used those two people, and then I realize now that how I act and move, people are watching how I do things. And so, you know, so now I got younger cats that's younger than me come to me like, you know, big brother, you know, what can I do? You know, I see you do this and doing that. And so it made me understand that, you know, people are watching. And
people are watching.
And so I got, you know, and so whether it's this platform, the books, you know, social media, you know, I got to use it for the best purpose because, you know, everybody needs that brother who they can look up to or listen to that can help them be their best self. So I completely agree. So what made you do the men's group for brotherhood? Because I think that's amazing. Something that I think it needs to be done across everywhere. So what made you do that?
Yeah. So the men's group really came out of a larger thing for me. So when I started working on the first section of the book, I was very big into the Fatherhood Initiative, and Ken Canfield, author, and he was kind of the founder of it. He sent me his book, which is really nice, really nice of him. But I started to see the impact that the effects, through the statistics and all those different things of what happens when the father is A, not in the home, and B, if he is in the home, just not engaged.
Right.
And the impact that it's had on everyone, not just on men, but on women as well. And so I really I knew that a part of my calling and a part of my passion was to connect with men and to connect with fathers so that we can really get them back in the homes and get them to reclaim that rightful place. And I would just say, just so you know, midway through 2018, I've really been seeing a lot of men step up in general. Just men are being, and I'm not saying it's just happening now. It's been the last couple of years, but men have really just been stepping it up, in their homes, in their communities. We're seeing that start to happen again. And so I knew then that I wanted to get connected. I started to reach out to look for different men's groups in the area. I'm in Maryland, in the men's group, for men's groups. And but something really awesome happened. I, as a part of my transition, and we'll talk about this when we talk about my transition and ship, I found this book that was written by Tony Gaskins and it was really about his journey to becoming literally like one of the number one motivational and relationship coaches. And so I reached out to him on Twitter after reading his book. And I just told him, man, I appreciate it because I didn't find, there are books out there, but there aren't that many books that everyone would have access to for African Americans written by African American men.
Right.
And so that's what really made me gravitate to the book most of all. And so we started, chopping it up, and I tell him I would love to connect with him when he's in town. And sure enough, he reached out and let me know he was going to be in the area. And so without skipping a eyelid, I went. I was like, look, I'm gonna be there. Whatever you need, I'm by your side. We're gonna do this. Of course, practicing that leverage to win, because when you're doing what's right, you're gonna have the support that comes up. And so, I went and I met with him. He was doing a conference, and I literally just spent the entire time serving, which is what I wanted to do. I just wanted to serve. I wanted to learn, and I just wanted to support him. And at the end, I was getting ready to roll out, and he was just like, look, man, I really appreciate you. Let's stay connected. Let's connect. There are some ideas that I have that I want to do. I'm thinking about doing a men's group. And it was like, boom, just like that. When he said, I'm thinking to do a men's group, of course, everything in me lit up because I knew that this was direct intervention. This was direct, like a sign, if you want to call it, like, yep, I'm in the right place. Right. And he said, and I would really love for you to, be a part of that, taking the lead and supporting to make that happen. I said, you don't got to say another word, brother. It's on and popping. We're going to make this happen. And so we kept talking from there. We set up a couple of meetings, and we just talked about what the group would look like, what my dream was and what my goal was and what his dream was and what his goal is for it. And the rest is history. I mean, I got to shout out the men's group, because there's some really awesome guys in that group, including yourself. Thank you. There's some really awesome guys in that group. And I hope we get the opportunity to do what the dream is and to really create a movement. Yeah.
Okay. So what is your vision for the group?
So the vision for the group is that first of all, when I first started the group, it was the first part to me that was probably the greatest was the phone calls, reaching out to all of the different men that reached out. And
I remember you called me.
Yeah. And so, connecting for that piece, I don't even know if Tony knows how special and awesome that was for me. Really? To do that. I don't even know if he knows, because it created a bond with all of the men. That I think will never be broken. Like right now, Eugene in the group, man, is my guy, and everything that he's doing on Facebook is just so phenomenal.
Yeah, he's nice.
Tori too. Yeah, like Michael. There's so many awesome people in the Antoine. And so anyway, sorry, I know.
Yeah, that's good, man. Because Tori is gonna be one of the guys. I reached out to Tori, so he's gonna be. He's on my. I'm gonna get him on my calendar, and also Eugene as well, because he's doing great things as well. So, you know,
I mean, yeah. I mean, I
I
could
got you.
name everybody and shout out everybody.
But
Grooms,
I do,
Benjamin.
but I do want to say I felt your excitement
Yeah,
because I remember when you called me, I was here at the studio.
yeah.
I was getting ready to do the show,
Getting ready to do a show.
and you called me, and I could feel just how you are right now. That's what I felt from you. And
Yeah,
me and you talked for a hot second about what's going on, and I guess you felt my energy,
absolutely.
and
Instantly.
you was like, okay, I'm super excited, and from that point forward, I was like stoked. I was ready. I was ready for it. And so when we had the first call, that was like that kind of blew my mind because just to have all these guys on here, and we all are doing different great things.
Yeah,
Um, the amount of vulnerability on there
yeah,
is crazy because a lot of guys, it just confirms right to you and for me why something like this is needed because there's a lot of guys who need us
yeah.
and need that support system because they going through some things and they don't have nobody to talk to.
And the best part to me is that the group is so packed. That's what I really like. Like, it's not like people are just sitting around waiting for something to pop off. People, like half the group of men are doing stuff. Vernon Fox, like all of these guys are speakers and entrepreneurs and leaders in their own communities. And so that to me is what it's about. It's about connecting all of us and then being able to build something in our own communities, in our own states, in our own cities, and then have just that huge convention where we're bringing in fathers and sons, and we're bringing in father figures and their sons, and really starting to rebuild our nation, not just black men,
Right.
but just our nation of men.
Right.
Give everybody, I say it all the time, but give everybody that leverage to win. Because sometimes it just takes a few. It
Right.
literally just takes a few. And so that's the goal. The goal is to really start to build it up. And then we all we get together for our own conference, and we start to put our plans in place to build,
Okay.
this national group.
I like it. I like it. And so I know you are a member of Omega Psi Phi. So what made you do that? Was that because you always liked them, or is that because it's a legacy thing, or is it because you were looking for that brotherhood?
Well, so I'm a part of a Christian organization that's Omega.
Okay.
So it's a little different.
A little bit different. Okay.
Yeah, and it's a combination of men and women.
Okay.
And so I think the main reason what made me decide to do that was that it was something I was always searching, I would say, for brothers. My
Right.
confidence in myself, in of myself, was not always the highest.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was always looking. I was always a good speaker. I was always a good leader, but not on my own.
Right.
Somebody always had to do something with me. Somebody always had to be with me. And so I knew that I needed those brothers. I've always needed that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't need it anymore. I need it differently now than I needed it before.
Mm-hmm.
And so I found this group that. So I would say this is the best part. Like, I'm a New York City guy.
Mm-hmm.
Was raised in church, but outside of being raised in church, I knew the streets probably a little too well, if I let my father tell some stories. And so when I got to school, when I got to college, there was a group of guys and some girls. At the time, I just saw the guys who were actually singing in the church choir.
Mm-hmm.
And they weren't just, in the back with a do-rag on. They were actually singing. It was my first time really seeing some down-to-earth, normal black guys who had no problem worshiping and praying with each other and stuff like that. And I was like, oh yeah, I need to be a part of something like that where I can be myself,
Mm-hmm.
but also not be ashamed of the gospel, not be ashamed to be a Christian.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what really attracted me to that organization,
Mm-hmm.
and being like, yeah, I need to be a part of that. Because trust me, they'll still fight you.
Right.
They broke the back window of my car my best friend smashed out the back window of my car, and still all love. He, still pray with me, but like I said, it's still just regular down to earth people. So we had some good times. Still wild, but not afraid to pray, not afraid to sit down with you and encourage you and uplift you. These were the guys that were like, look, you need to get your master's. You can't just get a bachelor's in social work. You need to go for your master's. You need to continue to pursue and to do well and to make your family proud. When you get that kind of encouragement, those are the type of people you need around you. Because I had no plans of continuing on my journey, or even for college or for graduate school. Okay. And it was those men that did that pushed me to for more.
All right. So let's go to faith. This is gonna probably be the most in-depth one. Faith. Yeah. So what? First, I want you to talk about the faith that you had within you for the journey that you are on, and then we talk about it from the perspective of leverage to win. So go ahead.
So faith on the journey that I'm on. January 1st or December 31st, however you want to look at it, New Year's, we're at my house, and got my family and friends over. My cousin is there. He's DJing, and we are having a New Year celebration. It's literally gets to midnight. We say Happy New Year. We go around, give our hugs and kisses to everybody for the New Year. My sister and her then fiance are there. Like, it's just a good time. And my wife comes up to me and she says, "Hey, have you seen our dog?" Now, the crazy thing is that our dog's name is Midnight. And so literally it might have been 12:01. But I always say at midnight, my wife recognized that Midnight was missing. And we could not find him. I left the house in the middle of the celebration, went outside looking for him, and I could not find my dog. And that was probably the last straw for me in everything that was going on in my life up to that point. Like, it just like, okay, I just can't continue like this. Me and Midnight were very close. With everything that was going on in my marriage, everything that was going on in my career, I found myself spending more and more time with my dog. And like they say, man's best friend.
Right.
And so when that happened, that literally started the change and the transition in my life for me.
Okay.
And I say that it started the change because the change had already begun, but that was when it was like, okay, enough is enough. Clearly, God is trying to get my attention. And so I remember sitting in the car one day, just sitting in the car, not wanting to go inside, and just saying to myself, this is not the life God had for you. This is not what the plan was. It wasn't for you to be overweight, unhappy in a marriage, not being a good father, not advancing in your career as a social worker. This isn't it. And so what did make me happy? What was it? And what made me happy was speaking and writing and, doing what God called me to do so many years ago. And so that's where the journey of faith for me started, because in that moment, I remember him saying, yeah, you're going to have to quit your job. You mean I'm going to have to quit my job? Like, first of all, do you know how hard I worked to become a clinical director, to be making upwards of $90,000 as a social worker? Like, do you know how much I put in to even get to this place? And now you're telling me I have to leave it? And that required a lot of faith. And I ended up going to church. And it's so crazy because my college roommate, who was one of my Omega brothers, was speaking at the church that I went to that day, and literally almost spoke on the exact same topic of what I needed to hear. And so we went to lunch afterwards, and I kind of just broke down there, and I just revealed everything that God said. Like, look, things in my life have to change, or I'm gonna die. I have to make these changes, and I'm telling everybody here who's at lunch, that also means I'm going to have to leave my job, and I'm going to have to follow my calling. And that requires so much faith. That's not even to talk about leverage to win. That's just what required the initial faith. And so here's where it boiled down to for me. There's a story in the Bible about three servants and their master's going away on a trip. Before he goes away on the trip, he gives his first servant, he gives him 5 talents. The next one, he gives 2 talents, and then the last one, he gives 1 talent. And he tells them to do the best that they can with the talents, and then he goes on this long trip. Doesn't talk about where he's going or how long the journey is, but he goes. So for the first person, he took those talents and he worked at it and he doubled it. He doubled the talents. The second person did the exact same thing, worked at it, put it to good use and doubled it. And the last person took that one talent that he had and he buried it, right? Mm-hmm. Put it away for safekeeping, so you could say. Mm-hmm. And so when Master returned, he went to each of his servants and he said, okay, what did you do? And so he told him, Master, you gave me these talents. I put it to use. I invested it. And I got a return on that investment. And here's what I got. He said, well done, you good and faithful servant. You've been faithful with these few. I'm going to make you a master of many. And he blessed him and sent him on his way. The second servant, he did the exact same thing. He told him the same story. And he blessed them and he sent them away double as well. He got to the last servant, and the last servant said, well, I know you're a good and you're a faithful master, and you're very meticulous about what you do. And so what I did was I buried it for safekeeping. And the master said to him, I would have rather that you would have lost it than for you to just bury what I gave you.
Right.
And so he took the talent away from him and he sent him away. Now, this story was stuck in my head because I was the one who had been given the talent, the gifts, and I buried them. And I recognized that if I didn't use them, I was going to lose them. And I had already started to lose them. As you see, we're talking here, we're fine. Up until 2017, I had developed a serious stutter. I would not have been able to even carry on this conversation without stuttering through the conversation. And so these gifts that God had given me, I wasn't using them and I was losing them. And two major points stuck out for me. The first major point is that our talents and our gifts are our connection to the master. Right? That's number one.
Right.
Number two, when you lose your gifts, when you lose your talent, you lose the master. So the last guy who buried that talent, not only did he lose the talent, but he got kicked out of the master's home. And so that our gifts are our connection to the master, to God. And so if we're not using them, we are disconnected. That's my opinion. That's what I took from it. And I was like, man, this is so powerful. I want to share one more thing that I think is also important as it ties into leverage to win. So the other piece that most people ignore throughout this entire story that's in the Bible that everybody knows at this point, the one thing that everybody ignores is that during that entire time, the one servant who had 5, the one who had 2, the one who had 1, they were all under the same roof. And this is what I tell you, the master didn't just give them the talent and walk away. He made sure that they were people that were around them to show them that they could do it if they just stepped out. So even in that, he provided leverage to win if you choose to accept it. Because the servant who went and buried his, he still had 2 other people. You could say 2 roommates. You could say 2 people living in the same space with him who were doubling the gifts and the talents that they were given.
Right.
So there's no excuse to say, well, the master wasn't here to show me what it was. You had people in place to show you exactly what you needed to do in order for you to win. And you decided to bury it.
Wow.
So that's what it was for me. I recognized that and I said, man, I can't do that anymore because I'm going to lose everything. And it's so sad that I had to lose my DOG in order for me to find GOD. It's so sad. But that's what happens in life. Sometimes God has to take the things we care about the most out of our lives in order for us to see him.
I agree.
And don't worry, I have a surprise ending for you on that. So don't even
because
we ain't going too far.
Okay, because I'm eventually do a video about this because everybody said I need to, but I got and it'll be a year Memorial Day. So a year ago Memorial Day weekend, I got bit by a poisonous spider. So it put me in the hospital for about 3 weeks. What I instantly understood was God getting my attention. I was I was hustling, trying to build this business, and I was ripping and running, doing some of the things that I think was aligned with what he wanted me to do, but it wasn't really it wasn't. It's what I wanted to do. And so I had a battle between him and I because he wanted me, like you, to cut down on how many classes I was teaching for spin classes because It was other things that he wanted me to do.
Absolutely.
And either you be obedient now, or eventually he's going to make you become obedient.
Absolutely.
It's going to make it happen. So since I refused, he made it happen. So I got sick and I was in the hospital for 3 weeks. So that took the time for me to rest, but then two, because the hospital I was in, they took my cell phone. So I had no communications.
Right.
So, and like when I tell people that, I said that all was in divine order because he didn't want no distractions. He wanted me to be me and him. To get clarity about what he wanted me to do. And so when I got out, I realized I couldn't teach classes for a while because of where I got bit at. So it forced me to tap into the talent that he wanted me to do. So I had to really focus on doing this, focus on the coaching, whether it's life coaching or health coaching or health coaching. Focus on that and focus on creating, because he felt those were my best gifts. Teaching a spin class was a gift as well because it inspired people as well. And he didn't want me to completely get rid of it. But at this point, he needed me to have a little vacation from it so I could focus clearly on what the true gifts are. And from there, that's when I co-authored that book. And so from there, that's why I met you. And so it started, things started to build up. And so, okay, now that I realized now that I have clarity, what I do, now he says, okay, now you can go back and teach because you know what your path is. And you know, you can still use that to inspire, educate, and empower, but don't make it be all and be all because that's part of your gift, but you got so much more. Like you said, he gave me 5 different things, and I was only truly using one. And so I said, okay. And so so now I said, now I got to surrender to that because people say, you know, you need to make that into a video because it will really empower somebody to understand. But then again, and then also understand the power of faith as well too, because I understood. You know, I never said woe is me. I never understood. I never asked why it happened to me. I knew why it happened.
Yeah.
And I knew why it happened. And so I had to surrender to the process and then say, okay, what do I need to learn from this? And so, and be grateful for the opportunity that I'm going to be able to learn from this. And so when you said what you said, I instantly thought, okay, bingo, you know, you have a lot of gifts. If you don't want to lose it, you got to use it. So
you got to use it. Yeah.
So,
and it's your connection.
So with us as African Americans, we know we are very religious, but sometimes I think we're very religious, but we don't have the faith to go along with the religious practice. Why is that?
Why we don't?
Yeah.
Because we don't expect it. We don't live a life of expectance.
Okay.
We just don't. I will say that opportunities are a little bit more challenging for us, and they are more limited. But we also don't have the faith. There's a book that's called "Think and Grow Rich," a Black choice.
Right.
And it is. I think it's probably one of the most profound books ever written by Dennis Kimbro.
Yep.
And the reason why I love it is because throughout the period that the book is written through, which is early 1900s all the way up, for every generation, there has been somebody who had the faith and didn't think that it wasn't possible. There was always somebody who thought that all things are possible, and they are our leaders. They have been the ones that have inspired the rest of us. But that has always been a challenge for us. We don't always believe. We believe that God wants us to have this mundane and simple life.
Right.
And the reality is that he does want us to have a simple life. But a simple life doesn't mean that it's not filled with joy, that it's not filled with substance or abundance. It doesn't mean that. And so sometimes we're our own worst we're our own worst enemy. That's why I've literally came up with dream, believe, act, and achieve. That is my motto within Vision Success, because you got to have a dream. And I did it with my own process. So I had a dream about what I wanted my life to look like.
Right.
If I had followed the calling and if I was doing what I was supposed to do, what did I want my life to look like?
Right.
And I was very clear, and it was so clear that I wrote it down. Right. And it's my version of a vision board. So
Absolutely.
I wrote down all of those things that I wanted my life to look like. I wanted to be in a loving marriage with my wife. I wanted to be able to take her to Hawaii. Don't worry, honey. If you're watching, I'm going to take you to Hawaii.
Right.
2020 is happening. And so I had a dream of what I wanted that to look like. I wanted to be someone who had time to raise children, not just to be a provider in the financial sense, but a provider in the spiritual, mental, physical sense. I wanted to be slimmer and look good. And I wanted to own a home that was all ours, that had enough room. I wanted so many things. So I had my dreams, and then I had to then believe that they were possible. Absolutely. I had to A, believe in myself, B, believe that it was possible to happen, that it was possible to achieve. And I had to tell myself every day until I believed it, because that's all that it is. Then I had to act. I had to act on those beliefs and say, okay, well, that means I got to start New Hope Clinical Services. I got to start writing. I wasn't writing by myself. I had another writing partner who was supposed to be finishing his book. I don't know if he's listening or not, but I'm calling him out. He was supposed to finish his book, and I just acted and I just wrote. I don't know where I found the time. That's the blessing. That to me is where the faith comes in. I have no idea where I found the time. I was working full time in DC as a clinical director, then coming down to Maryland, to Beltsville, Maryland, to do my coaching and counseling, and then going home to write, to spend time with my daughter, to spend time with my wife, and get the book done. And listen, we found a way. We got the book done. It's sitting right there in front of you. Absolutely. You know how awesome that is to look over and see my book. And so, and you literally start to achieve things step by step once you follow that process. And so for me, it's been great. And as it applies to Leverage to Win, and I guess we'll talk about it a little bit more, but I had support every step of the way. The moment I dared to dream, the nightmare ended. That will forever be my favorite quote. The moment I dared to dream, the nightmare ended. The moment I dared to say, you know what, enough of being fat. And it wasn't that way. It was all a part of the dream, which I can always share with anyone, because that's what I do in my coaching. I start with a goal and then the steps to get to that goal. So the first thing was that I had to lose weight. I can't go and speak to people and encourage people and not be able to walk to the stage and not be drenched in sweat or have to sit down because my back hurt. I had to lose weight. In order to be a better father, to be able to spend time and laugh and play with my daughter and live a longer life, I had to get my health in check. Not just to lose weight, I had to actually change my diet. And I had some cool friends that were supporting me every step of the way, that I didn't even ask for that support. They just gave it. And that's the leverage to win. When I wanted to start the business, I needed to have an office space. And my cousin, who I wrote about in the book, got together with some of his friends who are plumbers and contractors and electricians. And they came and they literally redid my entire basement for me. That's leverage to win. I had friends who said, hey, you starting your coaching? Come down to Beltsville. You can use our office space. We won't charge you anything. Just get yourself up off your feet. That's leverage to win. And so when you start, like I said, the moment you dare to dream, the nightmare ends. The people who want your success, they give you the leverage to win. And so there's nothing better than following that calling, because it keeps you connected to God with your gifts and your talents. Right. It gets you ahead and gives you that leverage you need to be successul. My other friend is an author, helped me to get the book together and to find the right people to edit. I mean, editing is still always going to be a work in work, especially when you're self-publishing, but getting those supports, getting people to help with my business cards and to help me do my promotion has just been phenomenal. I remember when I released the book on March 9th, the amount of support that I got was so overwhelming. It felt almost as close to my wedding day, the amount of support that I got. The other day, this young lady that I went to high school with, named Hillary Burton, she first of all, when I first got to high school, I was very new to the area. I went to high school in Virginia, and without batting an eyelid, she just embraced me. We had drama class together, and she just took me under her wing and was just so kind and so helpful. And then the other day, she saw something that I posted, and she just kind of tweeted. And Hillary, she's famous now. She's an actress, and so she just kind of shared my message with people and talked about Leverage to Win. And instantly the support and love that I got. And so it just shows you, like, when you do what you're supposed to do, the right people will be in place to support you and to give you that leverage to win. And I thank her. Hillary, thank you so much for your support and just for your continued support, and for everybody else who has been doing that, because this is what makes this possible.
I like
this is what makes it possible.
I like that.
Before we talk about family, I told you I had a little surprise for you. I want to bring around the Hope Faith thing for you.
Okay.
So, like I told you, January 1st, Midnight went missing. Midnight is a French bulldog. He loves people. And I told you we had a house full of people. So there's no way he would have left unless somebody coerced him to go outside. Anyway, as a result of everything that happened, I couldn't tell you that I would be the man that I am today if Midnight had not gone missing. And I told you that as a result, I knew I had to quit my job. On my second to last day at my job, speaking to my supervisors for the last time. I would never be doing another supervisors meeting as a clinical director. And so speaking to them for the last time, my wife calls me and tells me that they found him. And I'm like, they found who? What are you talking about? And she's like, they found Midnight. And so it was almost like the cycle of life where, you know what, I had to take this away from you so that you could see me and you could do what you were supposed to do a long time ago. Well done, thou good and faithful servant. Now here's your dog back. And so after a year and 6 months, a French bulldog that I promise you would never be returned. Anybody who knows dogs, and they know A, he's an expensive dog. B, he's a French bulldog and he's so friendly. Anybody who finds him is keeping him. So for him to be able to find his way back home is only God. And that's what happens when you're faithful and you follow the course. It comes back full circle.
Wow. I like that. My producer likes it too. I was like, okay.
Yeah.
I agree. And a lot of times, God puts things on you that opportunities on you that you may not see for yourself, or it might not be what you thought what you wanted to do. And so sometimes you might just brush it off, but then it circles right back around.
Yeah.
Same opportunity. And I say, so you like, okay, all right, so it's something, everything you want me to pursue this. And so that happened to me. Like once I got out the hospital, I met a friend, and she said, "You're doing great things with, coaching. Great things with your radio show, The Wellness Architect." She said, "Why don't you do an annual cruise? And it could be wellness, so yoga, all that. Talk about nutrition, but still on the cruise." Understand that relaxation is part of wellness.
Yes.
So I said, I didn't see that coming. So I brushed it off. And I said, that's not going to be me. And then it came back around. And so she said, once again, this is what you need to do.
Yes, sir.
And so I'm going to do it.
Yes, sir.
It's going to be for 2019. It's like you going to Hawaii in 2020.
2020.
I'm doing the first annual Health and Wellness Architect Health and Wellness Cruise in 2019. And so once I surrendered to that, I was like, okay. Now I'm super excited because okay, now I know this is what I'm supposed to do. Yeah. And so as I started to tell people, I haven't told a lot of people. I was surprised I made this announcement, but since you are talking to me, it's like, okay, I feel led to go ahead and make it the announcement
Mm-hmm.
because, if I don't make the announcement, I hold it in, I might not never do it. So
Right.
now, so I said, okay. And so when I told people, they said, we've been waiting for you to do something like this. And so I said, okay. So it's like you said, so as you do what you're supposed to do,
People are gonna start to step in. They're
exactly,
gonna start to show up.
exactly.
Yeah.
So how hard was it for you to leave your job though?
Oh, it was tough. Oh, it was tough. So the kind of work I do, as a social worker, I was working with the homeless population
Okay.
in Washington D.C. At a great agency called Pathways to Housing. Um, and so we provide housing first. And so I'm working with people with who are suffering or suffer with chronic homelessness, as well as severe and persistent mental illness. So it's not just that they're dealing with homelessness; they're also dealing with substance use, and they're dealing with their own mental health diagnosis, schizophrenia, bipolar. So it's severe. And so, working with that population, working with the staff, is something that I will always love to do. I did that kind of work when I was in Michigan. And I loved it. I loved being a part of a team and helping people to get better, to improve their own wellness and their own recovery. And so it was really tough. It was really tough, and I wasn't even sure exactly what I was going to do next. My next step was, of course, to take a quick break and to work on my next book. My next book is, what's supposed to be quotes to live by. And literally, God was like, "No, your next book is the day Midnight came home." So my next book is writing about this experience and with Midnight and all the changes that I've made and how it can help other people too. And so that's what my next steps are. And so, I'm just continuing to follow his lead. I'm continuing to follow his lead, and it feels great. I'm excited. I'm looking forward to it. I still do some contracting. I still do some consulting, coaching, and counseling. But ultimately, I will move solely into writing and to speaking.
Okay.
The one-on-one is great. But to focus on the men and the men's group and to focus on larger groups is what the calling really is.
Okay. So for the listeners who hearing your story, who hear me and say that the faith is easier said than done, what do you say to them?
I disagree. I think, like I told you, I think the moment that I decided to step out on faith, things actually got easier. People think it's easy to stay in the comfort zone. To me, it's tough. It's tough to be in the comfort zone because it doesn't feel comfortable. It may seem that way, but most of us are sick and tired of being sick and tired.
Right.
I know that I was sick and tired of being sick and tired. I knew that there was a body that I wanted. There was a lifestyle that I wanted that I wasn't achieving from being on the couch or from playing Call of Duty. And so, the first step was scary, right. Absolutely, but not tough. I get up at 4:30 in the morning or 4:20 every morning. That's not tough. It's scary, the idea of, oh man, the unknown, but it wasn't tough. It's actually a lot easier than I thought it was going to be to do it.
Right.
My wife had been begging me to get up at that time in the morning for a long time. Like, you should get up earlier, and I was just like, no, I can't do it. It's too hard. Well, the moment I did it, it was actually very easy. We're just scared, just a change. We're afraid of change.
Okay. I like that. So let's transition to the last part, which is the most important part, which is love.
Yeah.
So what made you make that be the last part of the last section?
Because if you don't have love, man, nothing else matters. If you don't have love in your heart, if you're not a servant, if you don't have passion, love, desire, if you haven't learned from the people around you, then none of this matters. None of it matters. I had a phenomenal mother, and she was also a server and a servant. I didn't talk about this a lot, but in the book, it lends itself to who I am today. From the time we moved to Virginia, my mother had taken on foster kids, and so we've had foster children in our homes, and it taught us to be there for people who were without their parents. That's you think having a father is tough. Imagine being separated not just from your father, but your mother, your siblings, and you're somewhere in a strange home. And the love and the patience my mother bestowed upon them taught me to be patient and kind to others. It didn't make me only see people from their weaknesses, but see them from their strengths, and their ability to be resilient. These kids, they were missing their families, but their ability to continue on with school, to participate in family activities, that's resilience, that's strength. And so, you learn to focus on that and help other people to achieve that. And so, I felt like it was probably kind of natural for me to move into that kind of a place of service as well, because, my father was a servant, my mother was a servant. And when I say a servant, I don't mean that they worked in like a servant's quarter. I mean that they were always naturally those kind of giving, serving people. Right. My father was involved in different, like Christian clubs, we call like a Pathfinder club, which is like, just like a regular club, Scouts club or something like that. We had foster kids. We had my brother Kevin, who came to live with us when I moved to Virginia. They were just always those kind of loving. They put others first, and that taught me how to learn to put other people first. And so that was important. Love then also goes to the people that you have around you, and the people that support you, like my wife, who put up with a lot of my mess and a lot of my crap for a long time. Because I thought I was the perfect husband. I thought, that, I was always respectful to women. I always honored and treated them right. But I was also more selfish than I recognized. And you'll get to read about it in the book. So I don't want to put too many spoilers out there. But, it taught me a lot that you have to apply that love you have for so many other things and apply it to your calling and to your gifts, and just allow your life to grow, allow it to be what it was meant to be, which is beautiful and enjoyable. And so you'll hear me talk about that. A lot of the things my mother did for me, just out of her love and her sacrifice. Sacrifice is such a big piece. And if you want to be successful, it requires a ton of sacrifice.
Absolutely.
And I honestly think it's through sacrifice that you advance. It's a sacrifice of, like I told you, the people around me, my cousin, to sacrifice his time, and his energy to help me, rebuild the basement. It's the sacrifice of the people that I work with, that allow me to have the office space. It's the sacrifice of my mother and father. My father sacrificed so much of his own time because he worked so much, and still to sacrifice that to go do things for me and with me. My mother, her sacrifices that she made for all of her kids, that is so key. And that to me only happens out of, in love, And so that was important. If you didn't get that, if you didn't see the sacrifices that were made for you, if you don't know how to love others and serve others, then everything else you read in the book doesn't matter.
So what about the importance of self-love?
Oh man. So if you look through the book, the best way to find that self-love is to actually identify what you love. So that's probably been one of the biggest challenges for people when it comes to Leverage to Win, is finding their gifts and their talents, because they have no idea what they love, because they've been influenced by the thoughts and ideas of others. They've never identified themselves. Right. Like I struggled with confidence for a very, very long time. I struggled with my confidence. And it wasn't until I started to invest in myself, that I was willing to invest in myself, that my confidence grew. So one of my favorite quotes as well, and you know me, I'm always throwing out quotes because I love quotes, but your confidence shows when other people believe in you, right? And that's how it starts, right? Is everybody they start to show more confidence when people believe in them. Oh, there goes Kevin. Kevin, you the smart one. Your confidence shows, but your confidence grows when you believe in yourself. Right. right? And so we have a lot of people who show confidence but have no confidence.
Absolutely.
Because they haven't taken the time to believe in themselves. They haven't taken the time to speak positively into themselves.
Mm-hmm.
They haven't done that. And sometimes it's as simple as of a daily routine of speaking positivity, becoming a creature of positive habits, speaking the positives. And with confidence comes because you're following what you're called to do. You're using your gifts and your talents. It's hard to be confident if you're not using that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's just like if somebody came to me and said to me, hey, we need you to, do this entire interview in Spanish. I wouldn't be confident because that's not my gift. I don't speak Spanish.
Right.
I speak Spanglish, because I grew up around a lot of Puerto Ricans.
Right.
But I couldn't do that confidently because that's not my gift. But when you're working and operating out of that passion and out of that gift, your confidence will show. It goes back to like Jomo, who was very confident that he knew the information. He could speak confidently and he could be confident because he knew, and he practiced that. And so I tell people all the time, we have to become creatures of positive habit. We have to stop trying and we got to start training. Right. So, once you start training, your confidence in yourself grows, your abilities grow. When people start to see the difference in you, it's no longer what they tell you anymore. It's what you tell yourself that makes the difference.
Absolutely. And one of the things, like I say, to people who's on a journey like you, how much have you lost so far?
I've lost 100 pounds exactly, maybe 101 today because I haven't eaten yet. Maybe 103.
Congratulations, first of all.
Thank you.
But what I tell clients that come who wants to lose weight, I said, the first thing you have to do is find self-love, and they don't get it a lot of times. They say, "What you mean? I love myself." I said, "No, you don't." And they said, "What do you mean?" I said, "Because if you love yourself, you would not get to this point." And I said, "So, you gotta ask yourself, do I love myself enough to do what I need to do to get to the place where I'm going to truly love myself?" And then that's what they said. I never thought about that. I said, "Yeah, you're lacking the self-love in you to do what you need to do. So you'll find a lot of other excuses of why you can't do it.
Yeah.
Instead of saying you're going to do it to say that you are worthy enough to get it done." And so that's why I commend you that you've done it. You're doing it. 100 pounds lighter.
Feels great too.
You're right. You're probably happier and everything else. So it just so in your journey, you probably just don't even realize who you have affected, who might need to see that journey as well. Because a lot of times people who struggle with weight, they have all these different hiccups of why they can't do it. Whether it's like, I don't want to listen to Kevin because Kevin probably always been slim. He doesn't understand what I'm going through, all this kind of stuff. So, maybe somebody who they see somebody like you who was a little bit heavier and now you're 100 pounds lighter, that might motivate them to have that same self-love to do what you did. So
and I'll be honest, I initially didn't think it was possible.
Right.
I really didn't. I remember talking to one of my best friends from high school, Tasha, and I was just like, Tasha, I'm really thinking about just trying to go do surgery because I don't think it is possible for me to lose this weight, and I need to lose it. And she just encouraged me. She just encouraged me to like really think about it, and that you can do anything you put your mind to. You can really do it. And it wasn't even the weight loss that it made a difference. It was when I could wash the dishes, because I hadn't lost any weight, but I had started to make some simple changes in my diet. And I was able to wash the dishes without stopping to stretch my back. My back wasn't hurting. That's when I was like, oh, this fat is in trouble now.
Right.
It's about to be a wrap. You mean to tell me I can stand here and wash these dishes and be comfortable and not worry about back pain, and I haven't even really started to lose weight? It's a wrap. That's when I knew it was possible.
Okay. So question. So what with the whole thing with love, what happens to the people who probably have an issue of loving because they don't trust that they are lovable because of
Mm-hmm.
whether the parents wasn't there or whatever situation
Yeah.
may be. What do you speak to that?
Yeah. So that to me is the easy one, and that's kind of like a little trick hack that
Mm-hmm.
I'll call it that I use, and that's the shift in from negativity to positivity. Um, and so what that simply means is, um, I tell people now that it's not always the trauma that is the issue. It's the negative habits we develop as a result of the trauma.
Mm-hmm.
So, mom may not have been there, dad may not have been there, they may have been alcoholics, they may have been drug abusers, right?
Mm-hmm.
As a result, you develop some habits to deal with that, some negative habits. And so the goal right now isn't really to always address or deal with the trauma of what they did, but about the negative habits that you introduce to yourself because you hurt yourself as a result. So what we need to do is we need to introduce positive habits. I was depressed. I was unhappy with my life. So I introduced myself to 2 liters of soda at night and Chinese food every single night. These were the habits that I developed as a result of what I was dealing with
Right.
my trauma.
Mm-hmm.
And so my first step was no longer trying to deal with the depression or the trauma. It was more about, you know what, why don't you just care about yourself and introduce some positive things to show that you care about yourself, just like you said. So if you do care about yourself, what are you willing to do positive? What are you looking to introduce positive? And I literally wanted to introduce drinking water. I knew that I drank a lot of soda. I drank a lot of unhealthy drinks. Man, it's time to introduce some water into your life.
Mm-hmm.
That was literally the first thing I did. Then I decided, you know what? I want to introduce having something green, a vegetable with every dinner. That was what I wanted to do next.
Absolutely.
So something green, some vegetables with every dinner meal. Those are the first 2 things I did before I even took a step outside, before I picked up the gloves for the punching bag. It was just introducing some positive habits. Now, everywhere I go, I am never without my water. No matter where I go, I have to have it. Like
Right.
that's a positive thing that I've introduced. I don't drink anymore. I am limited in what I put into my body. I've done this sugar-free, low-carb thing that has just been phenomenal for me.
Mm-hmm.
And now I'm in the gym. I'm even running in the gym, which is in of itself was all a dream that I would ever achieve that goal where I'm running every morning in the gym. And so it's really about introducing positive habits and not worrying so much about the trauma, because once you start to believe in yourself, the trauma in of itself, we deal with trauma forever. And the reason I know that is because even if you have come to terms with the loss of someone, your best friend passed away, right?
Mm-hmm.
No matter, it could be 20 years ago, somebody talks to you about it and they get you in the right question or the right moment and you'll tear up because the trauma is still there. That event is still there. That hurt doesn't go away. But how you deal with it is what makes all the difference, and how you decide to cope with it. So trauma doesn't go away.
Right.
It's the negative and positive habits that we've introduced to ourselves that need to shift and change.
Wow. Good one. So, how do people find your book?
Let me get that water in.
No worries.
So people can find my book 2 places. They can go on Amazon.com and just type in "Leverage to Win." And I ask people all the time to please leave a review. So the whole point of the review is that it allows it for me to be number one. I want to be number one in my category, absolutely. And so the reviews help with that, and it also allows other people to learn and hear more about the book. Because if it's number one, then more people will be able to find it, and more people get the leverage that they need to win. So that's number one. They can go on Amazon.com. The other option is to go to one of my websites. I have 2 websites, one for the New Hope Clinical Services. The other one is for my speaking and for the book, and that's DaltonTBeckles.com. DaltonTBeckles.com. And so they can go there. They can get a signed copy. They can follow the link to Amazon to get Prime shipping and get the book. If they go through through my website and they get a signed copy, I'll be sending the books out myself with a special message to each person that purchases it.
Okay. So how do they follow you on social media?
So I'm on Facebook. I think that's Dalton T. Beckles on Facebook. On Twitter and Instagram, it's Dalton. It's at Dalton Beckles. I'm a huge Twitter fan, so
Okay.
if you really want to connect with me, just find me on Twitter. Apparently that's not the number one. Apparently it's Instagram, but
Yeah.
the most like-minded people I know are on
Twitter.
Twitter, and that's the best place for connections, in my opinion.
Okay.
So you can find me on Instagram. I post a lot of quotes. I post a lot about the book, but I spend a majority of my time connecting with people on Twitter.
Mhm.
I've blessed to be a part of the Success Train. So shout out to the Success Train. They are some really awesome people who help to promote, and to a lot of other people who have been supportive of me through Twitter as well. It's been great.
Good, good. So, as we get ready to close it down some, I want you to give you a chance to speak to the audience, whatever's on your spirit. It doesn't have to, it could be about the book. It could be about whatever you feel you think people need to hear at this moment. So, whatever you want to say, this is your opportunity.
Okay, well, I won't be too long. I'll be pretty short. But what I think is important is that everyone has to dream. You have to have a dream and a goal, and then from there you want to break down everything that you need to do in order to achieve that. I knew that I wanted to be a speaker, and in order for me to be a speaker, there were certain areas of my life that had to improve.
Hmm.
I had to have a better relationship with my wife. There's no way that I can go coach, speak, counsel people around marriage, and I have home a mess.
Hmm.
That I wanted to speak to fathers and to men, and so in order to do that, I had to rebuild and improve as a father with my daughter. And so, I wrote all of these things down. I wrote my goals down, because that's the only way that you will see it through, is that you have to write this stuff down. And sometimes we get lazy and we don't want to write and we don't want to think too much because we get afraid. I promise you, the moment you step out on faith, it's a completely different experience.
Hmm.
There's no such thing as truly failing. That the only time that I would ever consider something to be a failure is if I didn't learn a lesson as a result. So if I
Absolutely.
didn't learn from something, that's the only time that I can say that it's a failure. And so write down your goals, uh, connect with the people around you, the people that care about your success. If you're in a field right now and you want to do something, then find some other like-minded people who want to do the same thing and that they have no problem supporting you.
Hmm.
You know who those people are. You may not always like their style, but you know that they're good for you. They're like broccoli,
Hmm.
okay? Don't be afraid to connect with those people because they will change the course. They will support you in changing the course of your life. I also want to just very briefly kind of talk to any of the husbands that are on here because this has
Yes,
been something
sir.
that's been on my heart real quick. Um, you know, it is very important to remember what your responsibility is as a man and as a husband. Your responsibility as a husband and father is to provide and take care of your family. That is your responsibility. That is your goal. Everybody doesn't have to like it. Everybody doesn't have to agree and see it your way, but you're not doing things for the pleasures of other people. You're doing things because of what you are required to do. So, that was a tough and hard lesson for me to learn. It
Hmm.
was a tough lesson for me to learn, because, there were certain things that I wanted to do, and I wanted a certain level of respect from my wife. But my job is to love my wife.
Hmm.
That's my job. That's my responsibility. It's to love her. It's not to command and demand respect. It's to love her. And the more time I spend loving her, is the less I ever have to ask for respect or demand it.
Hmm.
And so I just encourage you, you don't need to worry about the blame or looking for respect. What you need to do is be committed to loving your wife, be committed to loving your children, and watch everything that you want to see happen as a result of your faithfulness and your responsibility. That's it.
Wow. Good job. I do actually. I want you to speak to the men too. Now, I know you did the husbands, but
Yeah.
let's do something to the men as well, please.
To the men.
Yes, sir.
So one, men are always, men are always afraid to talk, and it doesn't matter at what level. We've always had that limit. And let me preface that by saying, in my experience, African American men have always been limited. Our conversations are so limited at times. It's just, what's up? You good? Yeah, I'm good, man. Everything good? Yeah, we good and good. And that's the end of it. I can tell you the extent of my conversations with my cousin Cordell. They don't last past 30 seconds. Me and my pops probably last 2 minutes.
Right.
At the most. But we get everything in. But what I wanted to make sure that men understand that it is absolutely okay to communicate. It's absolutely okay to talk. And it's actually beneficial when we do. And if you ever notice, when you have a conversation with another man and it's around something that's important to you, that conversation can go on for a long time.
Right.
And it could be as if there's nobody else in the room. And so don't miss out on these opportunities. Do not miss out on these opportunities to connect and to communicate. Even in our men's group, we have so many talented men and so many men with opinions who don't always speak up for either for fear or for not wanting to seem like they have all the answers. Listen, it doesn't matter if you do or don't have all the answers. Speak up, talk, speak on what you know, and be confident about what you know. Right. Because you literally never know who is going to be impacted by what you say, who's going to be impacted by what you do. So I encourage men, don't be afraid to talk.
All right. So thank you again to my man, Dalton T. Beckles. Go out and buy his book, Leverage to Win. Key relationships for all men need to success. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
No problem. I'm looking forward to collaborating with you and do some things out in your area. And hopefully we can do a conference. No, all the brothers come together to do a conference as
Absolutely.
well. I'm going to reach out to you. I'm going to need a favor from you. I want you to do. It's going to be a win-win.
Okay.
I will reach out to you after the show. I'll probably send you a message, but I want you to do something for me free. I'm gonna do it for free, but I want you to document it for me. So yeah, so I'll talk to you about it. But I'm totally grateful for you because I'm very passionate about what you do. Like I said in the show that when we talked to the phone, I felt your excitement. And so now that I see what you're doing, all I want to do is help you win. So, and because as you I've helped you win, and what you're doing helping us motivate us be greater as well. So, you're the leader, and we're gonna follow you, sir.
Thank you.
So continue greatness, continue everything you're doing, and I'll talk to you soon.
All right. Don't forget, recommend Think and Grow Rich, A Black Choice, Dennis Kimbrough.
Got you. You just
make
told
sure
him.
people get that.
All right, brother. Thank you so much.
All right.
All right.
All right. Have a good one.
You too. Peace. So that was our show, everyone. Thank you for tuning into the Wellness Architect Show. This has been your boy, Kevin Thornton. Be great, be you, and we are out. Peace.
The biggest station in the world, playing all of today's hits. You're listening to Instinct Radio.